your value as an investor is finding good deals. You make money on the purchase. So you need to put yourself as the head of your acquisitions team. That is your most valuable position. Most investors think, oh, I'll go stand in the house and point around. Are you going to know more than the guy who's been building houses since he was 8 years old and his uncle taught him how to build? You'll never know more than him. So why are you in his way?
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Brian Grimes is an Ivy League educated real estate entrepreneur who launched his own real estate development company in his hometown of Philadelphia, and he has gone on to renovate 300 plus rental properties across the country using the BRRRR strategy. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Brian. The pleasure is mine. There are 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show in 90 seconds or less. Can you tell me, where did you start, where are you now, and how did you get there?
Where I started is kind of at the bottom, working 100% commission, just kind of grinding to make ends meet. But I was paying myself first, saving every check and putting it in a separate account with the purpose of taking that money and investing in real estate. So I started with a house hack, a FHA house hack, buy something. I was going to live in a basement, rent out 2 units above me. Ended up getting a job out of town. So I became an out of town landlord. And having that experience of being an out of town investor, I just stuck with it, kept accelerating, got into full gut renovation. And that really took me to the next level of allowing me to scale through the BRRRR strategy, buying for pennies on the dollar, rehabbing, refinance, tenant, repeat that process. And that pretty much grew into a $50 million portfolio.
Man, that's cool. I love that. I love the stick with it story that you've got there. When did you know you were onto something and make that plunge to full time?
I knew I was onto something when I got the first check, because a lot of us, real estate is just like sports. It's a mindset. It's like 90% mindset, 10% skill. And the mindset that you start off with is, I know people pay their rent. I know people pay mortgages, but they're not going to pay me, right? Just because I'm the owner. And when you get that first rent check in your hand, that cash in your hand, or a moving fee, that really just completely shifts your reality to think, I can actually do this. And if I scale it up and put the right systems in place, I can do this at 10x or 100x. So I really knew from that first check that, hey, this is for me. This is what I want to do for life. And it was then just about, scaling and, not making too many mistakes that would knock me out of the game.
There is the classic kind of trap that entrepreneurs get stuck in. And I know there's 100 books probably written on the topic, but where we have this grand idea, we say, okay, we can do it. And even if our mindset is right, we still find ourselves doing and being an employee inside of the business. And especially with what you're doing, I think I have a lot of respect for that, because I never could figure it out on the side of things that you're doing. Like, I did about 60 housing flips, and I was just like, my gosh, like getting the systems in place to make this work, because every project was different. Everyone had its own unique challenges, and I never quite got my head wrapped around how to do that. That's my own limitation. So I'm really curious, how did you systemize this and make it such that you could kind of back off from the day-to-day, decision-making process and actually lead the company?
Yeah, it is people, right? You need good people. And we live in a global economy these days. So with Zoom, with LinkedIn, you can actually reach out and pull in talent, virtual assistants from places like South America, people who are going to really good universities, who are really hungry and have a strong entrepreneurial spirit. And when you take real estate, as you keep accelerating, I mean, at first, and you know this, you can stand in the properties and kind of watch them be built. But then as you're doing multiple deals, you have to rely on your systems. It becomes more of a mental game. So then the challenge is to take these mental components, break them into separate divisions, and then put the right people in place to run them, and then sit at the helm, only handle the escalations. And when you do that and find the right people and train well, you can make it happen. I think if I have one superpower, it is creating systems that don't break at scale. They're very simple, so you can multiply them by 1,000x and they still won't break. The complex systems that most people will build, they always break. If you try to even 10x them, they'll just break and they'll fail on you.
Let's dig into that a little bit. When you say that, you keep your systems simple, and then you see other people making that mistake of complicating the systems. What are some things that some tricks that you use, or some kind of metric, not metrics, but guardrails, if you will, that you employ that allow you, or force you rather, to keep your system simple?
I would say you always want to focus on leverage points. So what's a leverage point? Like if I'm going out and inspecting new properties, I need to get a lot of volume into that process, right? So most people will think, well, when I inspect a new property, I want to send my best contractor out there to look at this deal because he's going to see everything and he'll be able to tell me everything all at once. But you're going to burn out your best guy. It's not scalable. What's scalable is sending in a junior inspector who may know a little bit less than your head guy, but he knows enough to do the pre-screening at volume, at scale. You can get 5 of those guys. And then when you get a deal under contract, you'll have a window of time before you have to put a deposit down and it goes hard. Then you can send in, after doing negotiations, agreeing to pricing, now you can leverage your key guy. And he's not burnt out, he's fresh, he can see everything, get back to you with information. So that's now a basic leverage system with a fail safe of your key guy where you're not burning out the wrong people and hurting your operation. But if you do it in reverse, you're going to fail. You're going to burn out your key guy. He's not going to be able to see as many deals. So you're not going to get the volume and you're not going to accelerate. And that's just more logic behind, the way that I think. Everything I do is the same way. How you do anything is how you do everything. Everything I do has a baseline logic behind it. So a lot of my mentees love me because as they learn more about how I do things, they can start to think like me and I become that voice in their head. And then they start seeing the results kind of immediately after that.
I like that a lot. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, send out the guy that, again, because I mean, if you look at 10 deals, I don't know what your deal close ratio is. I'm sure you do, but
yeah,
what is it actually? Let's just ask that. What is your deal close? How many deals you have to look at to deals you close?
I say you have to screen. So I'll have my deal analyst screen through 100 deals to put 10 on a calendar. And then out of those 10, we're going to, push back. And we'll probably won't like 2 or 3 of them. We'll like 7. We'll get our offers. Maybe we'll get 2 under contract. So there's a lot of work behind that. So you have to do a lot of work behind the scenes on a daily basis. But then those are 3 sectors now. I have a deal analyst screening and putting deals in the funnel. I have a boots on the ground guy running and inspecting. Then I have the fail safe inspector coming in after that when we get the contract, negotiated and agreed to. So just breaking this thing down into something that always has a system and a fail safe, because everything, no matter what business you're in, something will fall through the cracks. So if you don't have the fail safe for that item that falls through the cracks, you're going to miss it. You're going to lose it. So most of my systems will have that, a basic system and then a fail safe that's going to catch me.
Right, because now your best guy is only looking at 2 deals. I mean,
he's only looking at 2 deals,
right?
Which means he can be in the properties where his value is the most. So you think about your value as an investor. Your value as an investor is finding good deals. You make money on the purchase. So you need to put yourself as the head of your acquisitions team. That is your most valuable position. Most investors think, oh, I'll go stand in the house and point around. Are you going to know more than the guy who's been building houses since he was 8 years old and his uncle taught him how to build? You will never know more than him. So why are you in his way? But on the flip side, do you need him out doing all of this work in the street or standing in the house, directing, air traffic controlling? And then what technology can you put in his hands so he can see more? Because he's used to being on site. Can you give him technology that increases his vision so he can multiply his efforts? This is where your impact becomes the most valuable to your organization. So spending more time working on your business than in it, and taking on that mindset hack of building a plane while you're flying it. So you're taking flight and you're in air. Now you keep building around it. You keep adding better engines and more jet fuel, and you just keep going faster and higher.
Is this something that you learn from an iterative process, or do you feel like this is something that just kind of was an innate skill set for you?
It definitely wasn't innate. I mean, if there's anything innate about me, it's I can absorb other people's energy, and I can absorb systems very quickly. So I'm always a student of the game. If you give me the high end of your system, I can reverse engineer it down to the minute details. But I got to work at a startup. in Brooklyn, one of the largest insurance tech, fintech firms out there right now, Policy Genius. And I got to study, I was employee like number 22. I got to study these two founders who built out a company from 22 people to 600 people, and the division interact with each other and the technology and how you can scale a startup. Because as a real estate investor, you're not a investor, you're a startup. This is a mindset. You are a startup. So you need to act like a founder, and you need to put technology into your business and leverage into your business to scale up. That's how you get ahead of other people who are of the mindset that they're just an investor. So I learned by studying people who are doing it at a world-class level. And then I took all of that learning and implemented it into real estate.
That is really, really cool. I love that. I mean, there's so much here to learn from you. I feel like I could just pick your brain all day long, which I hate that phrase, by the way. I don't know why I just said that. I think it's a terrible, who wants their brain pick? That's an awful statement. Anyway, let me say, I feel like I could learn from you all day long, though, is the point there to that. I think that's really, really cool. I love what you're talking about. Leverage points, building a system, finding or implementing a fail safe, and building things that don't break at scale. I mean, that's the thrust of the show. Is like how do we meaningfully scale our businesses to be in that CEO seat, or even in that owner seat that that's interfacing with your then CEO that's running the company. It sounds like you found the way to do that. There is maybe one part of your business, though, that I would wonder, how do you effectively scale this side of your business? Because you have a boots on the ground program where you allow people to get inside of your mindset and allow them to get inside of how you do things. Is that a scalable side of your business? And if so, how?
It is scalable because what I basically do is I tap people into my full service real estate model. Because one of my mentees asked me, Brian, how do I snap my fingers and just become you overnight? And I'm like, well, that's a complex question. So I went into the bat cave, thought about it a little bit. And I came out and said, well, I'll have a program where I find the deals for you. I tap you into the lenders that'll give you 100% of the money to buy and renovate properties. We'll get the properties under contract, help you to negotiate them, build the rehab budgets, build the properties for you with our in-house contractors, do the full gut renovations, reconfigure them if you want to flip them or buy and hold them, and allow you to do this from your kitchen table and your underwear. Because that's really how I invest, out of town, from the kitchen table with the kids on my lap, right? So it's been wildly successful. It is scalable in the sense that right now we have it in Philadelphia. We're going to expand it into Baltimore as well. And it is scalable in the sense that once I take my people and train them into this, I'll train the deal analysts, I'll train the acquisition analysts, I'll have the boots on the ground inspectors. It's all just one big system. So it can run with people. Nothing runs without people. Real estate ownership is a solo sport. Ownership of real estate is golf, man. It's tennis, but it ain't doubles, right? Mm-hmm. It's a solo sport. It's track and field. Right. But the business of real estate is a team sport. You need the architects, the engineers, the attorneys, the zoning planners, the insurance guy, the appraiser. You need everybody. You need all these bits and pieces and parts. So you have to be of both of those mindsets. If you get really good people and you have the right systems and the right blueprint, you can scale it to an infinite level.
I love it. I love it. What is one role, or if there is, maybe there's not, maybe you have ascended the mountain as it is, but what is one role, if there is one, that you are actively trying to get yourself out of?
I would say here's the hardest role to get myself out of. But I love the role, right? It's what I spend my time doing. But it's the hardest one to get yourself out of is deal analysis. Because I grew up in Philly. I've lived, breathed, and sleep and dream Philly, right? Yeah. I know somebody could say a street name right now, and I know exactly where it is. I have a mental map. I know what the property's worth. I know the ARVs. I know the cash flow. It's hard to take that type of analysis and put it into somebody and build it into somebody. So they can do the analysis. They can think like you, but not at the speed. Mm-hmm. So that is the hardest thing to step out of. To train a deal analyst at the top level to be able to operate at my speed takes usually a year to a year and a half.
Sure.
To really get them built in and ingrained to where they can go out and produce 100 deals a year. But that is the reward. If you train them and do it properly, they can go out and find 100 properties a year that will make you money each deal. So then all you have to do is then put the right construction team in place, put the right inspectors in place to keep an eye on everything and feed back the information. And you can sit back at your kitchen table, air traffic control, and make money from anywhere in the world in real estate. So you could be out of the country investing in different markets. I also know a lot of markets across the country that people have never even thought about tapping into. I got a guy in Arkansas right now that's buying land for $1,000 and building $50,000 properties that are worth, 125,000.
Sure.
So when you have a model like that, you have a lender with an insatiable appetite. They just can't be filled. I mean, you could print 500 deals in a year. You could print 100 deals in a year, ground up on land lots, and just tap in. So there's so much opportunity right now. It's like insane for me to sit back and see and be a part of with the community that I've built.
I love it. I love it. And I think one of the key things that you had said there was that you love kind of that deal analysis side of things. And so I would imagine that it's kind of a demotivator for putting somebody else in that seat in its own right, where it's like, hey man, I'm with you, man. I'm kind of a deal junkie too. It's like I can look at deals all day long. That's fun. So why put somebody else in that seat if you're having a blast? It's like, why do I want to get off the roller coaster, man? We're having a good time. So I don't want to lose the front seat on this ride. So I love it, man. That's absolutely cool. Let's talk about the state. Maybe we'll shift gears a little bit here from the tactical, maybe to a little softer skill, and talk about the state of the market. Like where are you guys? Maybe I could ask that question. Where, maybe if you want to answer this one, where are you guys finding opportunity right now, or how are you finding opportunity, and or what are you guys doing to protect your downside?
I think where I've always operated, right, is part of my mission in real estate is affordable housing, helping to be a part of solving that affordable housing crisis. So creating workforce housing. I invest heavily in co-living. So I'll take properties that are 3-bed, 1-bath. I'll blow them up to the 4 walls and rebuild them as 3-bed, 3 baths, 3 master suites. The only way to a bathroom is through the bedroom. And then you can rent them out individually. So you could take a property that would rent for $1,250 a month. It'll rent for $2,250 a month. Mm-hmm. You can create $1,000 of extra cash flow on these types of assets. So I do a lot of co-living, workforce housing, and that protects the downside because, well, 2 things. So how do I see the opportunity was one part of the question. Well, if I can take a property and produce $2,250 a month out of it, and you can only get $1,250 a month out of it, I can see a lot further than you. I can see way more opportunity, even in a tight market like Philly, 6th largest city in America. Right. 2, I'm protecting my downside because I have more rents coming out of each property in co-living. I'm creating affordable housing. So even in a recession, people start choosing cheaper alternatives because their money's drying up. So they actually flock to my products in my marketplace versus some of the higher end rentals. So I've always kind of stayed pretty conservative and low to the ground in that sense. So I'm conservative with strategy, but then I'm aggressive with scale. And that's a moderate aggressive strategy, we'll call it.
Right. But that's, I love both sides of that. Conservative with strategy, but aggressive with scale, because like you said, you're still going to be the least expensive option. And yet,
yeah, if I go down, everybody's out. Everybody's out of the pool. It's essentially like we got hit with a nuke at that point. Like if affordable housing guys can't make money, then the economy is really bad. And we have I would say more of a debt restructuring environment where people are just going to restructure the debt to survive because the banks can only foreclose so much. At some point, they just restructure the debt and extend, which we're seeing in the FHA market right now with the 40-year restructuring notes that have just kind of rolled out.
Okay, that's news to me. I haven't researched or actually heard anything about that. So maybe that's something I need to. When we hang up here, I need to go do some.
Yeah, there's some 40-year notes. Yeah, there's 40-year mortgage notes. If you were in a default on a 30-year FHA product, you were behind. You could restructure into a 40-year mortgage. So they will restructure the debt, take the past due balance, recapitalize it into the total amount due, and then stretch it over a 40-year term.
Wow.
And that's the test that's been going on. I think that just got approved about a month ago. And I wouldn't be shocked if we don't start seeing 40-year fixed mortgages in 2024.
Right.
I can almost guarantee it.
I would think that you're right. Just given the state of the over leveraged state of Americans in general,
Yep.
there's not the way out of the woods is probably not pretty if there is one there at all. So that's really, really
Yeah.
interesting. What about on the acquisition side of things? I mean, being in the single family home buying space or maybe small multifamily space, like that's been incredibly competitive. So what's a way that you're acquiring, not a way, I'm not talking about like a tactical, here's how we go out and find the deals, but like what types of deals are you seeing come across your desk that make sense today?
I think there's always, what I found is there are always deals. Sometimes the market is tighter. Sometimes there's a ton of froth in the market, right?
Right.
But there are always deals. Here's the caveat. The best deals come on and off the market in 24 to 48 hours.
Wow.
So if you are not fast, and this is my focus, if there's a strategy, it's speed.
Mm.
I can analyze if a deal, I've had deals like this. The deal hit the market 11 minutes ago. My guy's in it within an hour because I have the systems. We're in it within an hour. I already know what it's worth. We get an offer out the same day, and it's under contract before the sun rises.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the sun rises, now there's a bidding war, but I already got the contract.
Right.
Because I can move that fast. I have those systems. I have those people in place. I'm ripping and running. And we're analyzing so many deals that when we see something hit the market, wait, that hit for 55K? It's undervalued, period.
Right.
Why? Because I'm analyzing 100 deals a week.
Right.
I know the whole market. This is the thing about real estate. It's not the stock market. There's billions of stocks. If you go into any major city, there's maybe 2,000 properties on the market right now. Mm-hmm. You can see every one of them, put a value on every one of them. And then when the new deals start rolling on, they can be positioned either undervalued, at market, or overvalued. And you then go after and cherry pick all the undervalued deals. But you have to be fast and you have to do the homework. And that's what most people don't do. They don't do the homework. They don't focus on systems that have speed. And therefore, they miss out on all the best deals. And they say, oh, I guess you have to go to the auction or go off market.
Brian, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you for taking the time here to come on the show today and really pull back the curtains on what it is you're doing and how you're doing it. I love just like you said, you started this podcast off by saying that it's mindset. Like you start there with how it starts with how you structure, how you think. And then from there, all the systems and the processes kind of flow from that initial point of getting your mindset right. So Brian, this has been a blast having you here on the show today. Learned a lot from you. If our listeners want to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that?
You can find me on Instagram, Brian Grimes _247 CFU for the 24/7 Cash Flow University. You can find me on YouTube, Brian Loves Cash Flow. And that's easy to remember because I love cash flow. LinkedIn, Brian Grimes Real Estate. You can Google Brian Grimes Explains. This all backlinks to a free training that I have for you guys at www.workwithgrimes.com/cashflow, workwithgrimes.com/cashflow. It's a free training. It'll show you how to acquire properties for pennies on the dollar all across the country, just like I do. You don't want to miss out on that free offer. So make sure you guys tap in.
Fantastic. We'll make sure we put all of that there in the show notes. Brian, thank you again for coming on the show today. This was a blast.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for listening to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate podcast. If you can do me a favor and subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever platform it is you use to listen, if you can do that for us, that would be a fantastic help to the show. It helps us both attract new listeners as well as rank higher on those directories. So appreciate you listening. Thanks so much and hope to catch you on the next episode.